At 69, Steve Harvey finally tells the truth about Michael Jackson, and what he shares is far more revealing than the headlines, rumors, and conspiracy theories that have surrounded the king of pop for decades. Steve, a man who has spent his life navigating fame, the pressures of the entertainment world, and the scrutiny of millions, speaks with a perspective most people don't get. He understands the human side of superstardom, and he sees Michael Jackson not just as an icon, but as a person who was deeply misunderstood and, at times, profoundly alone. According to Steve Harvey, the truth about Michael Jackson isn't about scandal or controversy, it's about the cost of being a once-in-a-lifetime talent living in a world that didn't know how to handle him. From his early days in the Jackson 5, through his meteoric rise as a solo artist, Michael was constantly in the public eye, constantly judged, and constantly expected to be something beyond human. Steve points out that no child, no matter how talented, should be forced to grow up under that kind of pressure, and yet Michael did it, carrying a level of responsibility, expectation, and scrutiny that shaped every aspect of his adult life. Steve also emphasizes that Michael was surrounded by people who didn't always have his best interests at heart. Managers, promoters, and even some friends often profited from his talent and fame, while the world turned a blind eye to the personal struggles Michael endured. He was isolated, misunderstood, and treated more like a product than a person, which only added to the weight he carried every single day. Steve Harvey insists that this context is crucial for understanding the men behind the music, the real Michael Jackson, who could be playful, creative, and generous in private, yet misunderstood, vilified, and exploited in public. And then there's the human toll. Steve Harvey points out that Michael's life was not just lonely because of fame, but lonely because people refused to see the child he had once been, a boy who had been robbed of a normal upbringing, who experienced abuse and intense pressure, and who never really got the chance to just be a kid. That tragedy, Steve argues, followed him into adulthood, influencing his choices, his relationships, and even the controversies that later defined media narratives about him. At 69, Steve Harvey's honesty about Michael Jackson is heartbreaking because it cuts through the myths and reminds the world that behind the superstar was a human being, someone who carried unimaginable burdens while giving the world extraordinary music and joy. His truth is a call to see Michael not just as an icon, but as a man who endured a life most people could never survive, and it's that perspective that finally brings clarity, and heartbreak, to the story of the king of pop.